spent upwards of $10,000 trying to get my real estate license, and chances are you will too if you want to get yours as well. In this video, I'm going to break down the entire cost into 4 main categories. That is the pre-registration phase, the post-registration phase, the registration phase, and finally the brokerage phase. So make sure to watch till the end of the video to get the full entire breakdown. Okay, so using this kind of Excel sheet that I have here, I've kind of written down all the costs that you need to know, and we're going to go through them in phases. So we're going to start with this pre-registration phase here. So as you guys can see, I have course 1, 2, 3, 4, and I have 2 simulations, right? And then I have course 5 as well. So there's essentially 2 types of costs that we need to look at for the pre-registration phase. This is going to consist of one of them, which is the course fee cost, right? And the second, which is what we call the exam fee. So this over here, this is right? This is the exam fee. So we have both of those. Each course is a different cost, and each exam typically remains about the same. So if we go towards the course fees, basically we can see we have all these different types of fees over here. So course 1 is about $600, course 2 $685, course 3 is about $360, course 4 is $360, and simulation 1 ends up being the most expensive at $860, right? And course 5, because it's very short, you don't have an exam, it's only $100. So we take all those course fees, right? And we also take into account all of the different exam fees we have. So they recently upped the prices, and so the exam fees now are about $120 per course, and the simulation days are about $150. Keep in mind, your simulation exam fee is already included in your course fee, right? So these ones over here, they're already included in there. These prices I have over here, the $150, these are if you fail the simulation. So if you fail the first exam, your remediation day to pay for that additional exam, that's going to be an additional $150. So for some of you guys, if you just go through the simulations and you pass on the first try, you shouldn't really have to pay that additional $150. Although if you do fail, you have another chance before having to redo the whole thing. So then you might have to pay that $150 in that case. Okay, so we take all of these and essentially gives us this total of $3,660 for all of the courses altogether, and about $900 for all of the core exam fees altogether. And like I said, you can kind of eliminate $300 from this if you don't fail the simulations, but this is just kind of to generally get a gist of what it looks like. So in total, with both those together, we end up getting about to $4,500, about. So that's just with the pre-registration phase. So for many of you that are in course 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 of the simulations, this is going to be your cost for at least until you actually get your license. Now, once we actually get the license, that is the end of the pre-registration phase. Okay, so then we move on to the post-registration phase. So we scroll down over here, and now with the post-registration phase, there's essentially 3 additional courses we have to do, which don't have any exams, right? But which are going to have still a cost associated with them. And so essentially these are 3 courses that you have to buy after you get your license. And essentially one of them is a compliance course to kind of teach you what to do and what not to do in real estate. And the other 2 are electives. They're sort of meant to help you specialize a little bit farther, depending on what kind of real estate you want to sell. So if we go towards the course fees for all of these, you can see they pretty much amount to about $965, right? So our compliance course is about $345, our 2 electives are about $310. So these are all mandatory, so you have to do these. And that brings us in total, actually, if I add these both together, so if I add these both together here, boom, that brings a total of $5,500. Okay, and that is in total for the pre and the post-registration phase. Like I said, everything up to this point is mandatory. So you kind of have to pay for all these things, right? You do all these courses, you get your license, and then you got to do all of these as well, just because it's mandatory that you got to buy those courses. And we're already up to $5,500. Okay, so now moving on to the next phase, which is the registration phase. So essentially with this phase, what we're looking at is basically all the steps that are involved into actually getting the registration, actually becoming registered with all the different kind of memberships that we need, and also getting our insurance that we need as well. So a lot of different fees that we have associated here. Basically, we have different RICO registrations, the insurance, the criminal record check, professional association memberships, like registering ourselves with OREA and CREA, and also registering ourselves with the real estate board. Keep in mind, I didn't mention anything about the brokerage yet. We're going to look at those costs in a second. But so we look at all these fees, right? And they all amount to about $500 to about $1,000 depending on the fee. So RICO registration costs you about $600. The insurance will be about $500. Remember, this is all mandatory. Your criminal record check is going to be about $50. And then ORIA and CREA, now these are essentially, you have to register with ORIA, but CREA is an optional membership. Okay, so registering with ORIA essentially is a $200 initiation fee, right? And we have $110 that we have to pay annually. Okay, so you can imagine how much your costs will accumulate, year by year. But just for kind of the first just months of you getting licensed, you're gonna have to pay both of those up front. That amounts to about $310. And so CREA is optional. That is a Canadian Real Estate Association. And the only difference with both really is that ORIA, the Ontario Real Estate Association, these are mandatory, like I said, right? You have to pay for this. And it's because we're in Ontario. So ORIA are the guys that basically monitor everything in real estate relating to any trading happening. They set the rules. They're also the ones that provide us with all the forms that we use. So we got to be a member to do real estate in Ontario. CREA, on the other hand, being the Canadian Real Estate Association, you don't actually need to be a member for them. But if you are, you get certain perks and certain benefits. More or less, they're just going to give you some sort of trainings. You can now use the word realtor on your advertisements. And they also give you access to certain kind of tools or, kind of trainings, events, and things like this. They're not super, super important. Like personally, I don't really register with CREA. I've just registered with the mandatory ones. And you're not at a significant disadvantage at all whatsoever. So it's totally your choice. Some people have it, some people don't. But that is a fee that you can keep in mind in case that's something that you want to be a part of. And then registering with the real estate board. So if you guys are in course one or you've been through course one, then you've already learned this, that to do real estate in a certain area, you need to be part of that real estate board. So in Ontario, the biggest board that we have is TREB, which is the Toronto Real Estate Board. And that fee is about $1,000 annually. So again, I'm just going to calculate for right after you get licensed, but it is a recurring fee as well. So if we take all of these additions all together, all of these fees come up to about $3,000 altogether, right? And we take into account this fee along with all of the other fees that we've already paid, and we're already at about $8,500. And this is just you finally getting licensed. And remember, I did include some of the optional ones, right? So like I said before, if we go up here, your remediation days, right? The simulation ones, those you can potentially eliminate. So it's $300 cheaper if you don't fail your sims, right? And then we go over here, right? And ORIA, we have to do, but CREA, you can be optional as well. So $500 you can eliminate. So in total, if you pass your sims on the first try and you don't want to be a part of CREA, you can take out about $800 from this. So, more so closer to about $2,100, and your total fee will be more so closer to about something like $7,500. Okay. Now, I know everybody thinks that it's going to be super easy, super clean and simple once you kind of go through the courses. But the truth is that I am putting these into account, especially these fees, these remediation fees, because chances are you're not going to fail the sims. Most people don't, but you might fail one of the other ones. It's very common to fail. And some people fail more than once, right? Which means you have to buy the whole course fee again. So I would budget with all this in mind, because this is kind of extra room that you're probably going to end up spending sometime or another. Okay. So we've done all the fees so far, right? We got our license. We paid for all of these additional electives that we have over here, right? That we have to do. And we've gotten registered, right? We did RICO registration, our insurance, our record checks. We're registered with ORIA, and we're registered with the real estate board. So we're almost done. There's a little bit more left. And that is finally with the brokerage fees. So brokerage fees, I've just laid them out here already. And essentially these vary per brokerage. So really can depend. It can be very, very big in terms of the difference depending on who you join. But these are essentially the only required fee here is the one-time onboarding fee. Some brokerages have very, very low fees, something like $100 or $200. And some can have much higher onboarding fees, something like $700 or $800, or maybe even $1,000. So it really depends on your brokerage, but that is the only required fee from the brokerage itself. Aside from that, I've just included a little bit of cost in terms of startup materials. So if you're becoming a realtor and you're planning to do trade immediately, right? Become a full-time or part-time realtor, you're probably going to get business cards. You're probably going to get a photo shoot done. You might want to set up a website. You might want to get some sort of flyers maybe to get started. Maybe you would put on ads. But you see, there's a lot of stuff we can add on to this. The very basic part of just becoming a realtor probably is going to be business cards, photo shoot, maybe a website. But business cards and photo shoot for sure, right? So that can amount to a few $100s. I would just put 500 as a general basis. And if we take all of that into account, we're almost at $9,500 already, okay? Meaning you gain your courses, you gain your license, you become registered with a brokerage, and you actually saying, okay, now I'm finally ready to do real estate because you got your photos done, you got your business cards, you would have already spent about $9,500. So it is no small amount. And I know a lot of people think that, you know, they see the fees and they see, like, for example, these fees at the start, and it doesn't seem like much, comparatively at least, right? It's only $400 to $500. But by the end of it, right, by the whole process, we look over here and we get all of this and it adds up to about $9,500. Okay, so now moving on to the potential additional costs. Essentially, we have a lot of additional costs which you might have to pay. So keep in mind, I didn't include the fact that you might fail a course, you might have to repurchase certain courses, and we do have to pay annual continuing education courses, right? Which are just basically every 2 years, we got to kind of pay for additional courses, and sort of the same thing that we done over here for the post-registration phase. These kind of elective courses, we kind of have to redo those every 2 years just to make sure that we're, you know, knowledgeable about the field. So we do have to pay for those. And then you do have the additional potential of the marketing and advertising. And those costs can skyrocket, right? Depending how much you want to pay for. A lot of times people love organic traffic, and I definitely stand by that. Organic is probably your best bet. But, you know, a lot of people do spend money on ads or flyers, et cetera, et cetera. There's a lot of fees you can add. And there's a lot of potential additional ones I didn't even add here. Stuff like desk fees, right? If you want to get a desk at a brokerage, transportation costs, right? Your phone bill, maybe you want to get a CRM. So costs can very much accumulate super, super fast in real estate. So just show you at least these costs. So if we fail an exam, actually, this is about $120. So we're gonna have to pay a $120 for any exam we fail. And if you fail a course twice, the third time you want to attempt it, you're gonna have to rebuy the course again. So keep in mind, those course fees, they range from $360 for like course 3. Like I failed course 3, so I have to rebuy it for like $360. But if you fail something like course 2 or the Sims, it gets up to $700 or $800. So depending on which one you fail, it can be pretty deep for you. And then our continuing education courses, they're about $200 to $500 annually. And then our marketing and advertising, like I said, can vary a lot. So this part is just to give you a kind of just a view of what it might look like. Again, it can vary depending on the person. But with this all in mind, your total can come out to something like $12,000 to $20,000. Like I said, like if you're spending very minimum on advertising, just including maybe these 3, you're probably looking at upwards of $10,000. Okay, and keep in mind, even if we don't take these additional costs, you're already at $9,500. So you're basically already at $10K. Okay, so that was essentially the breakdown of the costs. I hope this helped. I will be making a cheat sheet for you guys as well, so that you can see all these costs on one paper, and that there's no longer any disputes about how much it costs. And you know, I know it's a very common question. So ideally, hopefully it's already done. So check the comments below. I believe it should already be in the comments, and you can basically check out that cheat sheet. It's totally free, and at least you're gonna have all these costs on paper, and you can always kind of keep those and keep those in mind. But hopefully this helped. You know, definitely keep this in mind in case you want to get your real estate license. It's not cheap by any means. Of course, you will make more money when you get into real estate, but this is an investment that you're gonna have to be willing to make. Okay, so thank you so much for watching, and I will see you guys in the next video. All right.